Thank you for watching. Subscribe on Betrayed Man's Diary for more stories. I'm Jake, 30 years old, and exactly 1 year ago, my life took a nosedive I never saw coming. That was when I found out my now ex-wife, Claire, 29, had been unfaithful. Even now, typing those words makes my stomach knot. Betrayal like that doesn't just fade with time, it scars. It all started in the fall of 2023. I lost my job unexpectedly. I'd been doing part-time work, just 15 hours a week. After the company I was with downsized, but the rest of my time was spent as a full-time stay-at-home dad. I loved it, honestly. Being there for my kids, watching them grow, doing all the little things that make a house feel like a home. It gave my life meaning in a way that no paycheck ever had. Claire had a good job. She worked in corporate accounting, made decent money, and always said she had our backs. "We'll be fine," she told me the night I got laid off. "Don't stress about it. Focus on the kids. I've got us." I believed her. I trusted her completely. Looking back now, I feel like a damn fool. Every day, I took care of everything. I mean everything. I woke up early, made breakfast, packed lunches, made sure the kids were dressed and ready for school. If one of them was sick or scared at night, it was me they called for. I ran errands, paid the bills, did laundry, fixed whatever was broken in the house, and every single day, Claire would come home to a clean house, fed kids, and a husband who tried his damnedest to make sure she had nothing to worry about. I even used to make dinner most nights, stuff I learned from my mom, or YouTube when I was feeling ambitious. I'd light a candle sometimes, just to set the mood for when she came home. She used to smile when she walked in the door. Used to. But now I realize she had stopped seeing me as a man. Somewhere along the way I had become invisible, and she didn't even bother to pretend anymore. I remember one night in late October. The air was crisp, leaves all orange and brown, and I'd spent the afternoon carving pumpkins with the kids while Claire was working late. The kids were laughing, faces smeared with pumpkin guts, and all I could think was how much she was missing. I sent her pictures. She didn't reply. That became normal. The missed messages, the late meetings, the emotional distance. At first, I thought maybe she was stressed. I mean, being the sole breadwinner while I was out of work couldn't have been easy, even if she said otherwise. So I cut her slack. I gave her space. I stopped pushing for affection. Stopped expecting the goodnight kisses that used to be automatic. I didn't realize I was giving up pieces of myself every time I looked away from the red flags. The first crack appeared when I overheard a phone conversation. She was in our bedroom, door half shut, laughing softly. Genuinely, the way she hadn't laughed around me in weeks. I stood outside the door, frozen. I wasn't trying to snoop. I just didn't know how to move. Something in me knew that laugh wasn't for me. When I confronted her about it later, she brushed it off, said it was her coworker, someone from her team, and they were just swapping dumb work memes. "God, Jake," she said with an annoyed sigh. "You're acting like a jealous teenager." And maybe I was, but something didn't sit right. I wish I could say I trusted her after that, that I let it go, but I didn't. I started noticing more things. The way she always put her phone face down, how she suddenly cared more about her appearance, the little changes in her routine that didn't add up. It was like living with a stranger who wore my wife's face. Still, I said nothing. I told myself I was overthinking, that it was all in my head. After all, Claire had stood by me when I lost my job, right? She wouldn't cheat. She couldn't cheat. We had kids, a life, a decade of memories. That stuff meant something. At least it meant something to me. But denial only lasts so long before reality punches through. And when it did, it hit hard like a sledgehammer to the chest. It's wild how your whole world can fall apart because of one little screen. After months of pretending not to see what was right in front of me, I finally cracked. Claire had been different, cold, distracted, emotionally checked out. But I kept giving her the benefit of the doubt because that's what you do when you love someone, right? You assume the best. You keep believing they'll come back to you. But people don't come back when they've already left. They just linger long enough to cover their tracks. One Friday morning, after she left for work, I did something I told myself I'd never do. Picked up her phone. It had been on the kitchen counter, buzzing with a new notification. Normally, she was glued to it, but this time, she must have been in a rush and left it behind. I stared at it like it was a bomb. My heart was hammering in my chest. I paced for 20 minutes, trying to talk myself out of it. Respect her privacy, I kept saying. You look like the paranoid, unemployed loser she jokes about behind your back. But that last thought? That's what finally did it. With shaking hands, I unlocked the screen's same old passcode, our wedding date. The irony nearly made me laugh. I wasn't ready for what I saw. There he was. Nick. That was the name saved in her contacts. Just Nick. No emoji, no last name. Just enough to look harmless if you glance quickly. I tapped the thread. The last message from him said, "I wish I was the one coming home to you tonight." And her reply? Same. Jake will probably cook something lame and fall asleep on the couch again. He's so checked out these days. Ugh. If he doesn't get his shit together soon, I'm done. There were pictures too. Not the kind you post on Instagram. The kind that made my stomach drop. Flirty, intimate, dirty. Stuff I hadn't seen from her in years, stuff I thought she had lost interest in entirely. Guess it wasn't the sex she was tired of, just the person she was having it with. And then came the messages where they absolutely tore into me. Calling me deadweight. A loser. No drive. No ambition. Claire had told Nick I was pathetic. That she pitied me. That every day she came home and saw me folding laundry or reading bedtime stories, she wanted to scream. I didn't realize how hard I was crying until I felt the phone slip from my wet fingers. She never once told me she was unhappy. Never said she needed more from me. I would have done anything. Hell, I was doing everything, caring for the kids, the house, trying to give her a stress-free life so she could focus on work. I thought I was being a good husband. I thought I was supporting her the way she once supported me. I waited for her to get home that night. I didn't touch dinner. Didn't clean. I sat in that damn chair by the window for hours, just watching the sky turn from orange to deep black, rehearsing the confrontation in my head. When she walked in, I didn't even wait. Who the hell is Nick? I asked, dead calm. She stopped in her tracks, her eyes wide. That was all the confirmation I needed. I looked at your phone. She didn't even deny it. Just stood there, purse still slung over her shoulder, keys dangling from her hand, caught like a deer in headlights. Finally, she said, you had no right to go through my phone. That was her defense. Not an apology. Not an explanation. Just indignation that I'd discovered the truth. I laughed, bitter, cold. That's all you've got? She didn't answer. So I told her what I'd read. The messages. The photos. The way she mocked me, the father of her children, the man who'd sacrificed his pride and career to hold the damn household together. And that's when she dropped the bomb. If you don't get another job, Jake, I'm divorcing you. No remorse. No tears. Just a cold ultimatum. Like I was some broken appliance she was ready to toss out if I didn't start working again. So I did what she asked. I found a job. It wasn't anything glamorous, just a warehouse gig that paid decently, but I took it. Not because I was scared of losing her. Not anymore. That ship had sailed. I did it for my kids. I did it to prove to myself that I wasn't what she said I was. And in the back of my mind, I knew getting the job wouldn't fix what was already shattered. I just needed time. Time to figure out what came next. Time to make sure my kids had a roof over their heads when everything finally came crashing down. Because it was going to crash. There was no saving this marriage. She told me she ended it with Nick. Said it was just a stupid mistake. A distraction. I didn't fully believe her, not in my gut, but I wanted to believe. I needed to believe. So when she suggested we do something spontaneous, just us, no kids, no stress, just a night to reconnect, I agreed. Maybe against my better judgment. Maybe because the old version of her, the one I married, still lived in the back of my mind like a ghost I hadn't laid to rest. We decided to get drunk at home. A cozy December Friday night. Lights dimmed, snow outside, music low. We opened a bottle of wine. Then another. We laughed, real laughter, the kind I hadn't heard from her in months. It felt almost normal again. But even in that moment, something felt off. While I tried to engage with her, share memories, playfully tease her like we used to, she kept glancing at her phone. Not just casually, constantly. She'd tap out messages, grin into the screen, then let out these little chuckles that weren't for me. I asked her once who she was talking to. She waved it off. It's just my friend Dylan. Don't worry about him, babe. He's just being dumb. Just a friend. That phrase should be banned. Every time I've heard it, it's been the beginning of the end. Still, I let it slide. I kept sipping my drink, trying not to care, telling myself not to ruin the evening. Later, she started getting up every 10 minutes to go to the bathroom. Said the wine was running through her. Funny thing, though, she always took her phone with her. Not just tucked into a pocket clutched like it held her entire soul. After a while, she stumbled upstairs to bed. We didn't hook up, hell, we hadn't been intimate in over a year, so I wasn't expecting a miracle, but part of me hoped, for 1 second, that maybe we were building toward that again. That maybe the wall between us was finally cracking. When she passed out, phone clutched tight in her hand like a lifeline, I was left downstairs alone, cleaning up the wine glasses and plates. But I couldn't shake the feeling gnawing at me. So I did the thing I knew would hurt but needed to know. I picked up her phone. She hadn't locked it, maybe the alcohol made her careless. Or maybe she was just that confident I wouldn't look again after the last time. I wish I hadn't. Her friend Dylan and her had been sexting nonstop the entire night. Right there in front of me while we were supposedly reconnecting, she was having an X-rated conversation with another man. I mean explicit, filthy, raw, detailed messages about what they wanted to do to each other. No shame, no restraint. Just full-on digital lust while I was 6 feet away trying to pretend we had a shot. There were pictures, videos, things she hadn't sent me in years. It suddenly made sense why she kept going to the bathroom. She was filming things, sending him live updates, all while pretending to drink wine and rebuild a broken marriage with me. My hands were shaking. I felt sick, but I couldn't stop scrolling. Every message was another dagger. She told him she was dripping wet for him, that she couldn't wait to sneak away and see him in person, that she loved how he made her feel desired and alive. I stood over her, shaking her awake. "Claire," I said, louder than I meant to, "get the hell up." She blinked, groggy. "Jake? What's going on?" I held up her phone. "You've been sexting Dylan all night. Don't lie." I read everything. She stared at me, confused or pretending to be. "What?" "No. You must have known, Jake. I thought I was texting you." That was her story. That she thought she was texting me. As if that made it better. She must have realized how absurd it sounded because her next move was even worse. She reached for me. Tried to slide her hand into mine. "Come back to bed," she whispered, suddenly sultry. "Let's just forget this. Let me show you how sorry I am." I pulled away like she was radioactive. "Don't touch me." And then I left. No shoes. No coat. Just grabbed my keys and walked out into the cold. I sat in the car for an hour, engine off, staring at the snow collecting on the windshield. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat there, numb. Numb to her lies. Numb to my own stupidity. After that night, the night I found out Claire had been sexting Dylan while sitting right beside me, drinking wine and pretending to reconnect, things got weird. We didn't separate. Not right away. There were no screaming matches, no ultimatums. Just silence. A cold, awkward silence that settled over the house like fog. We coexisted. Talked when we had to, mostly about the kids, the groceries, or what show the kids were into now. Every now and then she'd glance at me like she wanted to say something but never did. Then, a few weeks later, on a random Tuesday while we were folding laundry in the living room, she said it. I messed up. No big monologue. No apology laced with flowers or regret. Just those 3 words dropped like a pebble into still water. I didn't respond right away. Just kept folding my t-shirt, carefully lining up the sleeves like if I focused hard enough on the cotton, the pain wouldn't sting. Then she said, "But you have to admit. I mean, when you weren't working, you were just there. Like a ghost." That killed me, Jake. There it was. Her explanation. Her justification. It wasn't the cheating that was the real issue, it was my unemployment. Because for 3 months I wasn't enough. I wasn't doing something. I wasn't earning. In her mind, that void was the gateway to Dylan's inbox. Never mind the years I held the household together. Never mind the diapers changed, the nights spent rocking our daughter back to sleep, the packed lunches, the vacuumed floors, the errands run, the birthdays remembered, the love still shown. No, that didn't count. Because I wasn't getting paid to be a dad. Still, part of me wanted to believe that this admission, flawed and half-hearted as it was a start. So when New Year's Eve came and she reached out to me for the first time in months, not just physically but emotionally, I gave in. We put the kids to bed early, drank champagne we couldn't really afford, and sat on the back porch watching fireworks burst in the distance. She leaned her head against my shoulder and whispered, "Let's make this year different. Let's fix us." I wanted so badly to believe her. We made love that night, if you can call it that. It wasn't passionate or messy or even particularly intimate. It was just necessary. Like both of us trying to resuscitate something long dead. But for the first time in a long time, there was touch and warmth and breath shared in the dark. And in that moment, I let myself hope. The first few months of 2024 actually seemed like progress. In January, we started going on dates again. Just simple stuff. Coffee shops. Quiet dinners. Late-night drives with music playing low and her hand in mine. We even got a babysitter one weekend and went to a small concert downtown. I saw her smile again, genuinely, and I felt that tug of old memories pulling me back to the woman I fell for. February brought more exploration. She wanted to try new things in the bedroom. Talked about fantasies she had never mentioned before. Some of them surprised me. Some of them excited me. Others made me pause, wondering where the ideas had come from, but I didn't ask. I didn't want to ruin the fragile progress we were making. We got into a rhythm. Sex once a week, not earth-shattering, but consistent. She would even initiate sometimes, which was new. There were candles again. New lingerie. Some of the heat came back. By March, I started to really believe that maybe we had made it through the storm. That maybe the cheating, the resentment, the distance, maybe it was all behind us. We were still standing, weren't we? That had to count for something. I told my best friend Nate over beers one weekend that things were looking up. I used the word rekindling. He gave me a look like I was insane but kept his mouth shut. I appreciated that. I even started daydreaming again about vacations, home renovations, future plans. Stuff I hadn't let myself think about in over a year. Hope is a funny drug. You think you're clean, then one little hit and you're chasing the high again. But hindsight? Hindsight's brutal. Because now I see it. That hope? It was a setup. A slow, deliberate build-up to another fall. She wasn't fixing things, she was buying time. And I, like the fool I was, mistook the calm for a turning point. But the real storm hadn't even hit yet. April came with a curveball so brutal it knocked the wind out of everything I thought we'd been rebuilding. We were sitting at the kitchen table, the kids upstairs doing their homework, the soft hum of the dishwasher in the background. Claire had that look, the serious one, the one where her eyes go cold and flat like she's about to drop something big. I braced myself, but I wasn't ready for what came next. She said she was unhappy. Not just with me. Not just with our marriage. But with everything. I'm not happy with this life, Jake, she said, avoiding my eyes. I feel stuck. I feel like I'm drowning. I don't even know who I am anymore. I asked her what she meant, what exactly was making her feel that way. She didn't hold back. The kids, she said, were exhausting. She felt like a mother more than a person. The job she once loved now made her feel empty. The house, our routines, our lives, it all felt like a trap. And then she paused before saying the final thing, the thing that made my heart sink. And I'm not happy in our marriage. I didn't know what to say at first. I sat there, jaw tight, knuckles white around my coffee mug. After everything, after trying to make things work, after the betrayal, after the long nights spent wondering if I was the one who ruined this, I thought we were finally finding our way. But she was already looking for the exit. Still, I didn't want to give up. I asked her if she would talk to me. If we could go to counseling. Try to understand what we were missing. What she needed. What I could do better. She said no. Just, no. I don't want to talk it out, she said. I just need to get away. Clear my head. Maybe spend a week by myself. A week away? From our kids? From me? Just disappear? I asked her where she'd go. She shrugged. Somewhere quiet. A hotel. Maybe visit my cousin for a few days. My gut twisted. It didn't feel like a reset. It felt like a soft launch into single life. But here's the thing, this didn't come completely out of nowhere. Back in March, during one of those intimate exploration phases she kept pushing us into, we had a conversation about opening our marriage. And by conversation, I mean she pushed and I hesitated. She brought it up one night after a date, said we should spice things up, that maybe a threesome would be fun. I laughed it off at first, thought it was just one of those things couples joke about after a few glasses of wine. But she was serious. She said she'd been reading about it, that it could bring couples closer, help reignite passion. I told her I wasn't sure. I had jealousy issues, I wasn't ashamed to admit that. I couldn't imagine watching someone else touch her, even if I was in the room. She said we'd set boundaries. That it would be just physical. That love wouldn't be involved. I wasn't comfortable, but I didn't want to be the guy who always said no. So I kept the conversation going, trying to understand what she really wanted. That's when the suggestion came, not just a threesome. What if we each slept with someone else? That's when I hit the brakes. Absolutely not, I told her. I'm not built for that. I can't be okay with you sleeping with another man. She argued. Said I was being close-minded. Said it was just sex and that maybe it would help her feel alive again. That word, alive, was becoming her favorite excuse. I stood firm. No way. That wasn't me. But then she brought up this night, some random night weeks earlier when I had too much whiskey and passed out on the couch. According to her, I had mumbled something like, sure, whatever you want, when she brought it up again. She took that as my consent. You said yes, Jake, she told me. You can't take it back just because you were drunk. I was floored. That was her logic? A drunk mumble, half asleep, half coherent, was her green light to go screw another man? I told her it didn't count. That it wasn't a real conversation. That it wasn't something I was okay with. She looked at me like I was the unreasonable one. I'm not cheating if you said yes, she said. You don't get to change your mind just because it makes you uncomfortable. I felt sick. Manipulated. Gaslit. She wasn't asking for permission, she was rewriting history to fit the narrative that let her do what she already wanted to do. And the worst part? She framed it like I had given it to her. Like the betrayal would somehow be my fault. That night I lay awake in bed, staring at the ceiling, wondering how many lines would be crossed before she finally called it what it was, abandonment. I didn't know where she'd go during her week to think, but I had a sick feeling I knew who she'd end up with. And for the first time in our long, broken history, I started to plan for what my life would look like without her in it. She left on a Sunday morning, packed a small suitcase, kissed the kids goodbye, gave me a weak smile, and walked out the door. I stood in the doorway and watched her car pull away, not knowing I just watched my marriage leave with her. She didn't text much that week. Barely called. The one time we did speak, it was quick. Dry. Just to check in about the kids. No, I miss you. No, can't wait to come home. Just silence. Like I didn't exist anymore. When she came back a week later, she didn't even pretend. I remember it clearly. The kids were outside playing in the sprinkler. She walked in, dropped her bag, and said we needed to talk. The moment she sat down on the couch across from me, I knew what was coming. She told me she'd slept with him. She didn't say it with shame or regret. She said it like a statement of fact. Like she was updating me on the weather. And then, God help me, she told me the details. She told me how it happened. How he picked her up from the Airbnb. How they drank, laughed, went to dinner, went back to his place. How one thing led to another. And another. And another. She told me how many times they did it. How free she felt. How alive. Words she'd used before, each one like a knife. But the worst part? The part one's still here when I try to sleep? She told me how much better he was than me. Jake, she said, he was just more. Bigger. More energetic. More adventurous. I forgot what it was like to feel that way. I sat there, barely breathing. My ears were ringing. I wanted to scream. To throw something. But I just sat there, frozen in place, while she dismantled every last piece of my self-worth, one word at a time. She didn't stop there. I realized something while I was with him, she said. I'm done. With this marriage. With pretending. Pretending. That's what she called the last few months, our dates, our slow rebuild, our nights together. Pretending. She said she didn't hate me. That she'd always care about me. That I was a great father. But as for us? There was no us anymore. Just her. And a new chapter. I couldn't even cry. I just nodded. Got up. Walked into the bathroom. Shut the door. And stared at myself in the mirror. I didn't recognize the man looking back at me. He looked tired. Hollow. Like a man who'd poured every ounce of himself into a relationship only to be told it was never enough. Like a man who'd been cheated on, lied to, manipulated, and still clung to hope until it crushed him. That was the day Claire ended our marriage. Not with a bang. Not with a final fight. But with a smile and a comparison. After Claire came back from her little, soul-searching week, the one she spent in bed with a 23-year-old she met off Snapchat, you'd think I couldn't be broken any more than I already was. You'd be wrong. She told me it was over. Sat on our couch, looking me dead in the eyes, and said the marriage had run its course. She didn't apologize. She didn't even look that sad. She just declared it. Like a business decision. Like she was terminating a contract. One moment we were a family and the next she was emotionally out the door. But the thing about lies, especially the ones that hurt the most, is they leave a trail. A few days after she got back, I started finding things. It started when I was looking for a pen in the kitchen drawer and found a crumpled receipt from a boutique sex shop in the city. Not the kind of place Claire and I had ever visited together. My name wasn't on that purchase. The items listed? Stuff she had never mentioned wanting to try with me. Things she once called a bit too much. But apparently not too much for Snapchat boy. And the date? Right in the middle of her week-long getaway. Then I found the photo strip. It must have fallen out of her coat pocket when she dropped it on the couch. One of those black and white picture booth deals like you'd see at a mall. For frames of her and this kid, grinning like idiots, kissing like high schoolers. One frame even showed him holding her face like she was the most precious thing in the world. Like I didn't exist. Like the last 10 years meant nothing. But what truly gutted me was the love letter. folded up neatly and stuffed in her wallet behind her old library card. In his handwriting, big, messy, immature letters. You make me feel more than anyone ever has. I never thought I could love someone this fast, but I do. I love you, Claire. She kept it. She kept the receipts, the photos, the letter, like souvenirs from a vacation. And yet, when I confronted her again, she said, "It's not cheating." You agreed, Jake. We talked about opening things up. I looked at her, completely stunned. Are you serious right now? She doubled down, said I gave her permission that night I was drunk. That because we had a conversation, one that I very clearly told her made me uncomfortable, she had all the justification she needed to sleep with another man. That it wasn't betrayal. Let me tell you something, that wasn't ethical non-monogamy. That was gaslighting. She conveniently forgot that I said no. Repeatedly. That I expressed how deeply jealous and insecure that kind of arrangement would make me feel. That I had begged her not to go down that road. But Claire? Claire had a new narrative. One that made her the misunderstood wife just trying to rediscover herself. One where I was the rigid one holding her back. She still doesn't know how foolish she was. How careless. Because the internet? The internet always remembers. What Claire didn't realize was that I had installed a browser add-on months ago trying to monitor our kids' devices. And guess what synced? Her laptop. Her search history. Her downloads. Her cloud backups. And buried in that clutter was a video. Taken inside a photo booth. I don't know if it was accidental or if the booth had a camera option, but there it was. A video file labeled something generic like VID_0624. I watched it alone, late at night, sitting in my car outside the house because I didn't want the kids to hear me break. It was them. In the booth. Making out between pictures. Laughing. Whispering things to each other. And then, just before the clip cut off, I heard it. "I love you," she said. Clear as day. And him, grinning like the 23-year-old child he is, "I love you too." They had known each other for 1 month. While I was at home being the parent I'd been for the past 4 years, doing homework runs, cleaning up spills, cooking dinner, and cutting the crusts off sandwiches, she was out falling in love with a guy who couldn't rent a car without a fee. And she knew our youngest was sick that week. A fever of 102, miserable and clingy, crying for his mom. I sent her texts. Called her. Let her know. She didn't ask to speak to him. Didn't even reply to half the messages. She didn't care. Not about the fever. Not about the nights I sat on the floor next to his bed, wiping sweat from his brow. Not about the meals I made to try and tempt him to eat. Not about the kid who kept whispering, "Where's mommy?" in between shivers. She had other priorities. And that's the part I'll never forgive, not the sex, not the lies, not even the comparisons. It's that she left. And then tried to convince me it was all okay because of a conversation I barely remember. She calls it freedom. I call it selfishness. I don't know what comes next. But I do know this, I'm done apologizing for her choices. She broke us. And I'm finally ready to let her own it. By July of 2024, any hope I had left was just a corpse I hadn't buried yet. It was hot that month, unrelentingly hot. The kind of summer where you're already sweating before you even step outside. And the heat seemed to seep into everything, not just the weather, but the way I felt every damn day. Angry. Heavy. Tired. That's when she did it. Claire brought him out here. The kid. Her new boyfriend. The 23-year-old Snapchat Romeo she swore was just a friend, then swore was just a fling, and now? Apparently he was her future. He flew across the country to spend another week with her and with our kids. Yeah, that part was the one that punched me the hardest. Because while I was packing boxes, trying to move out of the house I built a life in, taking down old pictures, folding baby clothes we were supposed to keep for memory's sake, she was playing house with this guy. A guy she had known for maybe 3 months. 3. I still don't know what she was thinking. Or if she was thinking at all. She let him stay in the house. My house. The one where our kids had learned to walk and talk and laugh. And he was there. Sleeping in the bed I used to share with her. Sitting at the table where I used to read bedtime stories. And the worst part? She introduced him to our toddlers. Not as mommy's friend. Not with caution or slow introduction. No. She just dropped him into their lives like a new accessory. And kids? They adapt fast. Too fast. It broke something in me to see my daughter hand him a crayon like he belonged there. By August, the divorce was officially filed. I'd moved out by then, got a tiny apartment across town, just big enough to have the kids over on weekends. I didn't want to go. I fought like hell to stay, but she made it impossible. I was a ghost in that house. A reminder she didn't want. She didn't say it outright, but everything about her said leave. So I left. But I didn't go quietly. Because when I found out he had moved in permanently, I lost it. He moved 14 hours to be with her. Packed up his college town life, if you can even call it that, and moved into the home where my children lived. He became the man waking up in the same house as my kids. The one making breakfast, tying shoes, changing diapers. He wasn't their father. But she handed him that role anyway. And let me tell you, that made the divorce proceedings a nightmare. I got a lawyer. A damn good one. Because I knew I wasn't just fighting for property or assets anymore. I was fighting for access to my own children. I didn't care about the TV or the bed or the couch. I cared about who was tucking my daughter in at night. I cared about who was holding my son's hand when he crossed the street. And now it was some 23-year-old whose biggest accomplishment was getting into my wife's pants. The custody battle turned ugly. Fast. I brought up his age, his lack of employment, his sudden cross-country move for a woman with 2 toddlers. I had the receipts, the photos, the video from the photo booth. I showed how she abandoned her family in June. How she ignored our son's 102-degree fever because she was off having sex with a stranger. I wasn't trying to be vindictive. I was trying to protect my kids. Claire tried to spin it, of course. Said I was bitter. That I was trying to ruin her happiness. That I was controlling and jealous. Her lawyer painted her as a free spirit reclaiming her identity. Mine reminded the judge that stability matters more than sexual liberation when toddlers are involved. It's still ongoing, if I'm honest. But I'm no longer shocked by any of it. I've stopped waiting for her to wake up and realize what she's done. Because she did realize, and she just didn't care. She made her choice. And I made mine. I chose to walk away from the wreckage. Not because I wanted to, but because I had to. For my sanity. For my dignity. For my kids. I'm not perfect. I made mistakes. But I never gave up on us. She just gave up first. So here we are. 1 year after Claire detonated the life we built, and somehow I'm still standing. Barely maybe, but standing. We don't talk much anymore. Everything that needs to be said goes through email or the parenting app. It's all business, drop-offs, pickups, medical updates, school events. Cold, sterile, lifeless. Fitting, really. But every once in a while, the old Claire peeks through, not the one I loved, but the one who wrecked me. And when she does, she still manages to twist the knife. She blames me for everything. Everything. The affair? My fault because I didn't work for 3 months. The collapse of our marriage? My fault because I wasn't present even though I spent every day of those years raising our kids, supporting her, making sure she had a clean house and dinner waiting. When I called her out on how absurd that was, how she made choices, how she lied and betrayed and manipulated, she moved the goalposts. It wasn't just those 3 months, Jake, she snapped. It was the last few years. I haven't loved you for a long time. That one hit hard. Not because I didn't already suspect it, but because she said it like it was supposed to be a justification. Like it made the cheating, the gaslighting, the abandonment okay. She said other things too, things I try not to repeat in my head, but they stick anyway. Words that cut deeper than silence ever could. That I wasn't man enough. That I was too soft. Too sensitive. That she wanted more. Always more. And I just wanted her. That's the part one keep coming back to. I didn't want an open marriage. I didn't want late-night fights or threesomes or cryptic Snapchat affairs. I didn't want to live in a world where trust could be rewritten with excuses. I didn't want to be the guy on the couch wondering where his wife was at midnight. I just wanted the woman I married. I wanted family nights. I wanted laughter over spaghetti dinners and lazy Sundays on the couch. I wanted the life we said we'd build. But she threw that away. She wanted something else. And ironically, she didn't get it. Because just before Christmas, the golden boy, the 23-year-old prince she gave up everything for, left her. Yeah, he's gone. Packed his stuff and dipped before the holiday lights even came down. I won't pretend I didn't smile when I found out. I'd be lying if I said I didn't feel that little burst of vindication. Not because I wanted her to suffer, okay, maybe a little, but because it proved what I already knew. You can't build happiness on the ashes of betrayal. She was left picking up the pieces of a relationship she burned down to chase a fantasy. And me? Our divorce was finalized at the end of May. Just a few weeks ago, I got the official papers in the mail. No celebration. No drinks with the boys. I just stood there in my tiny apartment kitchen holding the envelope in my hand and felt hollow. Not sad. Not angry. Just done. And maybe that's what healing looks like. Not forgetting. Not forgiving even. Just not caring anymore. I still love my kids more than life itself. I'm still the same dad I've always been, present, steady, always showing up. That part of me never broke. The rest? Well, that's still a work in progress. So that's my story. A year of lies, heartbreak, chaos, and finally clarity. If you stuck around this long, thanks for listening. Seriously, thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Jake, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more dramatic tales.